Hello everyone, in this videocast I will show you how to use Vert.x and React to do isomorphic or universal rendering. React JavaScript framework has an optional server-side rendering support, and the idea is that you can render everything in the backend when loading the page for the first time, but everything after that is rendered on the front end. So the idea is that we can preload all HTML with the real content for the first view of the page. So once all JavaScript code has been loaded on the client side, rendering is taken over by React on the browser. So what I have here is a simple boilerplate project with a couple of defaults. Like I have Babel RC, which it's a minimal Babel RC where it says that I want to use the preset for React. The editor config where I can say I just want to say that my code style should use spaces instead of tabs. This is just optional. I have a package JSON where I define a couple of development tools like gulp and get those things from the internet, so I don't need to install those by hand. And a Maven POM file where basically I just have a preset the dependency on Vert.x web and the Maven shade plugin, so I can have a fat jar. And in terms of code, I have here a server, which basically it's just an empty piece of code that only starts a web server, and an utility class which is a JavaScript loader that allows me to run JavaScript on the JVM. Regarding React, I have here an empty file where I should put the code, and here it's where all the output will come over. This is generated code, so this is not interesting to show now. So let's look how we would build an application with React. So in order to get this working, I need to get React, and to get React, it's not on the boilerplate, so we need to download it. So I'm going on my terminal to wget. You can use curl if you like. I just have wget installed on my system, so I would just do it like this. React, try to remember the URL. Facebook React releases download I think the latest version at the moment is 15.3.2. So then the artifact is React minus 15.3.2.zip. Then I pipe all this stuff to jar. Actually, oh, sorry, it's not. So basically, I'm using jar because it allows me to unzip files on the fly. So there you go. So you see that suddenly I have here a new directory in my code. So once I do this, we can start looking of other things. So I said I have a package JSON, so I need to install some tools. So I assume that everyone knows how to install Node.js on npm. So I just run my npm install to get some utilities from the internet. This takes some time, of course, and if I can show you the code, basically there's no real dependencies, it's only development tools. And once we have this, gulp should work, and the gulp that is provided is very basic. So I'm just using the React distribution to locate my files, and then I will look for any GSX file inside source main GSX. And the pipeline is that I will pass all my code through Babel, so it will compile the GSX. Everything should be concatenated in one simple file. This is not really required, but I find it easier to have just one file. Generate source map so I can debug stuff on the browser if I need to, and then I write it to source main resources web root. So now that gulp and all the utilities have been installed, I probably can just run gulp. So there you go. Although our application doesn't do anything interesting because it was just an empty file, it just copied to source resources web root app.js. So here is the compiled JS file, and this is the source map. But the application, as you can see, doesn't do anything interesting yet. So let's do something here. So in order to make this a bit more interesting, let's create a component. So let's make an hello world component. So let's go here, new folder, and I call it common. And in the common, I create a new file. I'm gonna call component JSX. And this component, it's gonna be an hello world. So let's make it very simple. So var hello world, hello message. Hello message is a React create class, and here I'm going to do render is a function, and this function, what it's going to do is going to return page 1. Hello. Now I'm gonna pass a variable here, so this props message and an exclamation mark, and close the h1. So this is a very simple, trivial, basic example, so it doesn't do anything, but just it's just for us to have something to show that you don't need to write everything in a single file. So I'm going back to the app, and what the app is going to do is we're going to define two things. We're going to define two functions, one that allows us to render on the client side, and one that allows to render the same component on the server side. So let's create these two functions. So I can say that var render client is a function that takes a message, and now I can do that var data is message or default client message to the world. And now that I have initialize my message, even if it's not present, I can do react dom dot render the hello message, and my message is data. Now I need to close this, and I do document get element by ID, and let's call it root. So okay, so the first function is defined, and now let's do the function to render on the server side. So var server, let's keep it consistent, render server is a function that takes a message, so same old, and I can do exactly the same. Var data is message or the default server message to the world. Opa. To the world. Okay, and now the difference here is that we do return react dom server dot render render to string, and here we do again say hello message, and message is data. And we close this. That's pretty much it. So I can also do it like this, just to put all the semicolons everywhere. So if I now compile, everything should be okay. So it's compiled, and now we have our application is ready. So let's look at the Java code. So I will go on the server vertical, and let's do some stuff here. So what we're gonna do is that router.route slash, so the root, or yeah, we can do it even better. It's not the route, not get to here dot handler is context, and the context, what's gonna do is context output. Let's put the server generated messages, so server put content. It's gonna be something, and this something we need to define what we're gonna do. So in order to define what we're gonna do, we're gonna create here an extra variable. So JS loader is equals JS loader that we will call React app is JS loader dot create dot load, and now I need to specify which JS file I want to load. So I'm going to say it should be on my class path, and web root slash app.js, because that's where gulp has just compiled the JSX application. So what I can, now that we have our application also loaded on the server side, we can do now React app dot invoke function, and here I need to specify the function name, render server, and I can pass the parameters, and I'm gonna say this is provided by server, so you can see that it's not gonna be the same message than the default. Okay, and I'm gonna put here another message, another variable that I'm gonna call message, which should be rendered later on by the client. So I'm gonna do here rendered or by client. Okay, so this is it. So we have a couple of variables in the context, so now we need to have a way to make all these things to work. So what you're missing here is an HTML page, but of course this HTML needs to be dynamic, so this means that we need to have a template engine in our project. So what you can do is that we go to the POM.xml, and here on the dependencies we should add a dependency on a template engine. One of the easiest ones that we could use is the free marker. So let's use that one, but we could use anything else. We could use Jade or Pug as now it's called, or Timeleaf or something else. Dependency, yes. Group ID is io.Vert.x. Group ID, artifact ID is Vert.x web template template free marker artifact ID, and now the version is the same as the version. And now we close the dependency, so this adds the dependency. So once we go back here, we can now use our engine. So we need first to declare the engine. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do final free marker template engine. I'm gonna call this engine is free marker template engine dot create, and of course it's not declared on the import, so we need to import it. So import io Vert.x dot let me see if I can Vert.x web dot no, sorry, ext web dot temple dot now free marker template engine. So it's not picking it up because probably need to do clean. Let's see if all dependencies are there. Sometimes Visual Studio Code has some trouble getting the reference right, but it doesn't matter, like the build tool is correct, so it just needs to check that there was some change there, so it needs to get it. So we have the two variables and the engine, so now we can go back to our code. So we can do engine dot render, and we need to pass the context. So once now the context is correct with all the variables. So we're gonna do, let's say that we're gonna have a template on this location. We'll create this right after. So once it's done, two things can happen, of course. So if res failed, we need to handle the error. So we do context.fail with resource.cause, so we can see what's going on. Else we can do context.response dot put their content type is text HTML dot well, we could put here more headers regarding like caching and stuff, and say always cache, don't cache, whatever. So, but we can just make it simple, like res.result. So whatever comes, it's done. And well, our application is done, because after that, if the request is not on slash, it will rely on whatever it's on the file system on the default place, which is on the web root. So let's create this view. So we go on resources, we do create a new folder, views, and now we do new file, index.ftl, and this index.ftl would be some HTML. So we'd start with doc type HTML, and HTML, and add. Yeah, so far so good. And now meta character is UTF-8, and we close this, and we do a title, hello React. close the title, yes. And then we do a script of type text slash JavaScript. Do a source, and the source will be, well, let's use jQuery to notify that the application has been loaded. This wouldn't be really necessary, but let's do this anyway. http://code jQuery.com jQuery 1.10.0.min.js. Well, it's probably not the latest one, but it really doesn't matter in this case. It's just to have some reference. And now let's make some styling. Let's make this quite ugly. So body is font size to see things really big, 500. This will be bar style. Okay, so I have the style. So we can now close the head, and we can start the body. So if you remember from the body, we said that we would render our code on the element called root, so we need to define it. And that we have a script. Script type is text JavaScript, and the source is app.js. Script, so it's done, and now we do another script again. One, and this script is, so once the application is loaded, we do a function, and this function, what it's going to do is call our code render client, and here you need to pass a message. So we were already passing variables from on our server. So in order to get it working here, what we need to do is get the context variable .get, and we call it message. Yeah. And we close this one, and this one. So this is done there, so we can close this script too, and close the body, and we close the HTML. So we save the file. So our application is more or less complete. So now one thing that I want to show you is this script, dev mode. So dev mode is just a simple script that I have here, that what it's going to do is it will run gulp, it will run maven package, and then it will run our application. And if there are any modifications in any of these files, so any JSX, any Java file, or any FTL, it will redeploy again. So this is quite useful for development mode. So I can go here and do dev mode, and I see that gulp worked, Maven is doing his work, and now it's deployed. So this means if I would now go on my browser, and I would go here, I would see hello rendered by client, and this is fine. So you see that the client is running. So if we will look at the source code, you see hello rendered by client, it's here. So this is correct, but interesting thing to see is that there's like this strange $sign here. This is not correct. So what you need to do now is that we go to the code and we try to find out why is this happening. So I guess that what's happening here is that on the component JS we add here an extra $sign. So this is not correct. We delete the file, we save, and we see that the redeploy is now working. You see things are happening in the background. So this means that compile, redeploying. So we can now go back to the here and do reload, and it's fixed. So you see that you just need to change your file. In development mode you just change your files, and how to redeploy, the file watcher is helping you, but this only shows until now the server, the client side rendering. So let's see what would happen if, say, one of your users didn't have support for JavaScript or had a very slow internet connection. So we need to go on where is it, on advanced settings, content settings, and say, okay, let's say that I don't want JavaScript to work, to be allowed. So if I will now reload, I have an empty page, which is quite annoying, because if you look at the source code, well, the source code is still correct. It's there, but nothing happening. So what we need to do is we need to pre-fill this div with the content from server. So what we're gonna do now is we will go back to the code, and in the code we were already calling the invoke function on the React code on the server side. Oh, something strange. So we're already invoking it and saving it to this variable. So basically what we're missing at this moment is that here we say this is gonna be context.get content. If I'm not mistaken, it was called content, right? Let's double check. Content, yes. So I saved the template. You see everything is again being rebuilt. So if I would switch back to the here, if I see the source code, whoa, oh, it's still loading. You see that there's now content already provided with some code, and if I reload this, you see hello provided by server, and that's because, well, I disabled JavaScript. So I could go back to the settings and show advanced settings, sorry, content settings, and I say allow JavaScript, because yeah, well, and you see now, you see that the rendering was really fast, and you didn't even see it on the timeline that it changed. So in order to simulate that you have a very slow connection, what we can do here is that we go here on the code, and you're gonna say, well, never mind about jQuery. In this case, it doesn't matter. What we're gonna do is we're gonna, for example, move this code into the head, and now here you're gonna do set timeout, which is a browser function, which is more or less like the jQuery, but now I can say that only after 500 milliseconds, half second, the client would be executed. Note that this is wrong, you shouldn't do this, but this is just to show you that the behavior of the web page on a slow connection. This is just trying to emulate it. So we'll try to go again. The application is reloading. So you saw, I hope that you saw that there was some flickering here. So if you didn't, this is like the profiling captured by the Chrome DevTools. So what's happening, like this is a very, let's try to zoom in this area. So what's happening is that the application is loading, and then it starts rendering hello provided by server, and after 500 milliseconds all the code has been executed. You see that there's like a swap to allow render by client. So as you can see, you have a very fast turnaround development with Vert.x and React, for example, and it's not very different from what you've seen on the internet regarding all the other server frameworks. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks.